But it's 7 o'clock. No more talking. Welcome, Cyrus. Welcome.
Tessa-Marie, thank you so much again for having me. Really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so happy you do. You're here, Cyrus. I never, when I interview someone or I speak with someone, I never go to the library of Google to get my information, because anybody can go, hello, Nadia and Belinda, can go to the library of Google. I did not. I have something to read for you, and I'm going to ask you about it.
Okay.
So I believe in the power of a name. I think your name is really important. I do. I was taught that. Cyrus II of Persia. He was born in 600 BC and he died in 530 BC. Commonly known as Cyrus the Great. He was the founder of the Median Empire, the first Persian empire. Under his rule, the empire embraced all of the previous civilized states of the ancient Near East. He expanded it vastly, and he even conquered most of Western Asia and much of Central Asia, from the Mediterranean Sea in Hellespont all the way to the Indus River. And if you don't know, this is the old part of Europe when we had the convict Asia. Remember when you studied at school, you had Asia, okay?
Yeah.
And it's part of the Balkans, Macedonia, Southeast Europe, and the Valley. Cyrus' reign was about 30 years, and that was phenomenal for that time because his successors took over. And for him to last that long as a leader in that world, before he was born 600 before the birth of Christ, yeah. And he died at 530. So, and he was called Cyrus the Great, Cyrus II of Persia, and they call him Cyrus the Great. So my question is, based on what I read, did you know anything about this Persian king?
I did. My family's a very spiritual family, Tessa-Marie. And I'm actually, a lot of people don't realize this, I'm the fourth Cyrus, actually, in my family.
Oh, wow.
And my grandmother, Tessa-Marie, I don't know if you know this, was a minister.
Oh.
So the name Cyrus meant a lot to her, of course. Another definition is the shining one, which is what she was thinking about when they named me.
Yes, yes.
Which is a lot of pressure to grow up with that name. But yeah, Cyrus was an interesting king to me because he was not a quote unquote believer.
No.
But he did let the Israelites free from captivity, allowed them to go back and rebuild Jerusalem in the Bible. So I've always found that fascinating. I love names too, Tessa-Marie, so I appreciate you bringing that up. But can I just say one thing about that though? I think you and I have talked about this before. I am not what most people think I am. And what I mean by that is I'm a very conservative, very introverted individual, and I grew up with a lot of imposter syndrome. People told me I would do great things. They told me I would do all this stuff. I didn't believe any of that stuff. I thought they were just being nice. So I grew up with no ego, with no real belief in myself, and that was a double-edged sword for me, Tessa-Marie, because I was told about greatness, but I didn't embrace the greatness until I could see it for myself, if that makes sense. And so a lot of what you talk about, I resonate a lot with because, like, some people always go around beating their chest, look at me, look at me. I wasn't that guy growing up. I was not that guy. And I'm not that guy even today, but I do embrace the gifts better today than I have in the past.
Okay. So knowing that, do you believe you're living up to your namesake? Yes, I am. But let me tell you the thing about that even. I do because that's just what I know. I grew up around hard workers. I grew up around people who strove to be great in what they did. Even though there were no entrepreneurs in my family, Tessa-Marie, no authors, no media personalities. I'm the only one in my immediate family. But I grew up around people who worked hard, who believed in letting their work shine for them. So yes, I grew up with that around me. So I wanted to be the best of me that I could be. So in that way, I would say yes, I do. Okay, thank you everybody, Georgette and all of you who dropped in. Stay tuned. It's going to get hot and spicy. So you believe you do that, you did that.
Mhm.
So under that idea, do you believe your name contributed to the person that you are today? That it helped you, knowing you knew about part of what I talked about. I did not
Right.
go into the part where he went into Jerusalem and stuff like that. But do you believe that your name contributed to who you are today?
Now, you and I may disagree on this, Tessa-Marie. I don't.
Okay,
And
that's
let me tell you why I say that. One thing I have learned in my 47 years of living at this point
so
is
old.
that I've been around a long time,
I
Tessa-Marie.
can tell, I can tell.
But in my 47 years of living, I have learned that a lot of times we put too much on a name.
Mm-hmm.
We put too much on someone's, you talk about finances, we put too much on someone's location.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I made a decision to be the greatest version of myself, regardless of anything else. Because if I had grown up with the name Judas, I would have been the best Judas out there. I mean, other people may not have thought I was good, but I was going to be the best Judas. So I said that to say, my name, I love my name, and growing up, Tessa-Marie, people didn't think that was my real name.
All that.
They thought it was a stage name, which I could understand that actually. They're like, "What's your real name?" Like, my real name is Cyrus. That's my real name, But I feel like, in spite of my name, I think if I had not made the decision to be great, it wouldn't have mattered.
Okay, yeah, you have to make a decision just like he did.
Yeah.
But it's usually, we look at when we go into names, we can sometimes see the link that this type of people that are either from same name can have two extremes.
Yeah.
So I come across that a lot. But we're not going to say on your name. I just wanted to fool around with you for a bit. And
Can I say one thing though about that too? Two of the most popular Cyruses in entertainment were bad guys. Yeah. Cyrus the Virus and Cyrus from Scandal. Neither one of them were good.
Yeah. That's so very funny. Yeah, but it's I don't normally never ever go and get the information anybody can get on your bio. I never do that. Yeah. Somebody said, I went to high school with a guy named Cyrus. That's Stacy. Yeah. Great Stacy. So, and yes, Stacy just followed you. So that's nice. Thanks, Stacy. So it's important that sometimes we fool around with that. I love softening things. And if I had given them the bio, I could have just said not Dr. Google, Liberian Google gave me all the information. Yeah. But I started to think of different things. And because you are quite unique in some of the things you do, I wanted to bring something special.
Thank you.
Hi. So did you create a question for you? Tell us about your personal development life plan.
Now that has been a work in progress for me, Tessa-Marie, because I will say this again, growing up again, very insecure, not believing in what other people saw in me, and honestly questioning my own abilities. Even though I did well in school and all of that, I still did not feel that I was all that, if that makes sense. So, but let me tell you what helped me as far as my own personal development, what helped me. And that is to realize that I was not intended to be the best. I was intended to be my best. And that was a light bulb switch for me because it took off the pressure. And so for myself, what I have learned is, as long as I'm being the best Cyrus Webb can be, that is great. And that started for me actually 27 years ago. I was 20 years old when I reached that point. And so for me, that was definitely what has helped me to get to where I am today. In realizing that when it comes to, because I felt like part of the problem was I was trying to live up to others' ideas of what I should be. And even though there's nothing wrong, nothing bad about what they were thinking about me going to college and doing all of these things, I had to think, okay, but Cyrus, what do you want to do? How can you best shine in your place? And that's what I had to come to grips with, and that's now what I walk in.
So, well, you see, I love what you said, because many times people strive to be the best. And I said, just do your best. I always say to do your best. Hi, Kimberly. Make sure you do the best that you can. And if you know you do, when somebody criticizes you, you walk away and I did my best. And that is me anyway. So that's how I do it. Now, through this journey that you've been, it's quite interesting. But did you ever seek out a mentor?
Yes, and I still do today. One thing I learned from my grandmother, and my grandmother didn't go any further than middle school. One thing I learned from her is to always look for someone who knows more. And so I never wanted to be the smartest person in the room. And thankfully for myself, Tessa-Marie, that is not a hard job to find someone smarter.
But you did say just when we started that your grandmother was a minister, and in Proverbs it tells you where there are many counselors, the people will thrive.
Yeah.
So when you have, so she must know that because of it doesn't matter where she goes to school. When you're inspired, you're inspired. So so where there are many counselors, the people will thrive. So where you seek help from others and ask advice of others and realize there's always a learning, it is important. So I'm really glad you have a mentor and you still communicate with your mentor.
Tessa-Marie, if I can say this, though, to be honest with you, growing up, though, my mentor came from books.
Well,
I sought out books from people who were where I wanted to be or where I would aspire to be or to learn. And that's because, growing up where I grew up, I didn't know anyone to reach out to. So I looked to books for that, So I read a lot. I read a lot of everything, but self-help books, books for business, motivation. Those were books that I learned to lean on. And I still today make that a part, even though I have people offline too, who I'm able to call my friends and mentors. Definitely books continue to be a big part of that too.
So guys, he has dropped 2 big Canadian diamonds there already tonight. I hope those of you who are here have taken them in. He said, you don't have to be the best, you have to do your best. And then he said, his mentors, he sought out mentors by reading books, looking for, he couldn't get a human. And as we know, some mentors cost a pound and 2 crowns. So we have to, so he chose books as his mentors. And sometimes, even if your mentor is not charging you a lot, but if your mentor is keeping you prisoner to what you have to do, you have to step out. So you seek it from books. So he gave us 2 valuable pearls already, and we're just getting started. So when you decided to take control, you said at 27, you decided introvert or all of these other things that you had to step out and decide to do those things. What it is that motivated you to do that? What was your motivator at the time, or your booster, your rocket?
You and I talked about in our first interview, my being a suicide attempt survivor, Tessa-Marie, and that was the catalyst for me, because I realized that any day could be my last day. And what I made the promise to myself was, if today, I literally still do this to this day, when I lay down and go to bed, that if this is my last day, am I happy with myself? Am I happy with what I've done? Am I happy with what I contributed? And when I started thinking bigger than me, because I think so many times in the world that we live in, we get so focused on ourselves. And yes, we need to take care of ourselves. I do that, which is why I take naps in the middle of the day. but I think we need to start thinking bigger than us. And for me, that was when I realized, okay, yes, I've done well, but what am I leaving for someone else? What am I sharing with someone else? What am I giving to someone else? And every day that I'm able to go to bed and know that I've done that, can answer those in an affirmative way, that definitely is a plus for me. So if this is my last day, I can die knowing that I not only was able to do things for myself, but also be able to inspire other people to do that too.
That, like Yuko just said, this is a great question to ask before you go to bed. So that tells me that you have, I call it a bedtime practice. Mm-hmm. So you have a bedtime practice. How important is that bedtime practice to you? We talk a lot about morning routines, But I
Right.
think a bedtime practice is even more important. For me, it tells me how to set my day. So what do you think? What do you consider with your bedtime practice? You have that time when you kind of download, what did I do today? What else do you do in your bedtime practice?
Um, well, I sleep really fast, so that's about it. Look, Tessa-Marie, I'm one of these people. That's as much as you're going to get out of me because 15 minutes after I've laid down, I'm asleep. Because by the time I've done a 15-hour day, which is I do 6 days a week, after I ask myself those questions, that's it until the next morning.
As much as
But,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
but no, I was just going to say, but you know what's interesting to me? And again, I have an interesting memory. I don't have a telekinetic memory, but I remember a lot of things from many years ago. And I think some of our viewers may have been in this situation too, where this was said to us, or we said it to someone else. And that was the prayer that a lot of children are taught. Lord, I lay, Lord, I lay my head down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake,
Yeah.
the Lord my soul to take. And that to me is showing the importance of being intentional.
Yes.
Because so for me, I just modified that for myself and said, you have given me this day, God. I hope I have done something to make you proud of it. And that's what I try to think about every day, which is why, quite honestly, Tessa-Marie, I go to bed. Before I lay down, I think, do I need to apologize to somebody? Did I say something to somebody? And I'm being totally serious about this.
I know you are.
Did I say something that maybe I need to clarify with somebody? Because I never like to leave things unsaid. And I never want anyone to pass in my life where I wish I had said something to them. And so I literally think about that as the day is winding down for me. Is there somebody I need to text? Do I need to message someone just to check in with them? They were on my mind. And I think that is all about being intentional as I try to be, but also being appreciative of the gift that I have because, again, I don't know I'm going to have this gift tomorrow.
Right. So, guys, again, I am going to just keep telling you of those gems we are getting from this amazing human being, my friend, Cyrus. You got the first one. Remember when he said he does his best. That is a great big one. I know he's telling us another one that at the end of the day, he goes back to say, who did I step on today? Is there somebody I should reach out? So take those gems and make sure you too practice them. We talk about bedtime practice, and it's not a long one, but they're very intentional. And with what you say, you lie down and how your day went. That is, I call that downloading at the end of the day.
Yes.
And then lying and reciting the children's prayer. It is amazing because that's a prayer we all taught as kids growing up. Now I lay my down to sleep. I pray to God my soul to keep. So when we do those type of things, those practices, and they're intentional, do you believe that they help us set the way our day will go the next morning?
I do, but I will say this, Tessa-Marie, and I'm learning this more and more, and actually some of my audience have told me some things that have made me rethink this in a little bit. So I do believe it helps, but I also understand that two things can be true at one time. It helps, but it's not always easy. And I think for some people who have been so filled with stuff about who they are not, what they cannot do, how bad they are, it may not be easy for them to get to a place where they can do what I have now done. Now, this again was a process for me. I would encourage anyone to realize that, you know what, and this is one thing I've learned, and Tessa-Marie, I think you do this very well, people are going to have their opinion about you. Not everyone's going to like you. They're not going to like me.
No.
But you know what? That's okay. What matters, though, is what other people do, how I allow it to affect the way I live my life. Because they can't affect my life unless I let them. And so what I have learned and what I try to share with other people is stop allowing everyone keys to your house. Don't let everybody just walk into your life and start moving things around or moving things out or bringing things in, bringing people in. So I'm very selective. And I tell other people, you have to protect your own peace and to get to a place where you can lay down at night and have that peace. Because I go to bed very peaceful and quickly every night.
Me too.
but,
Me too.
but it's because I know how to set those boundaries. I keep the key. I know who to say, you know what? It was nice having you visit, but it's time for you to go. You know, because this is my house. You know, and so we have to be able to set those boundaries, Tessa-Marie, online and offline, and that will help us to contribute to that piece. So yes, it's helped me. It's been a process, but I also hope that it helps other people to realize you have more control than you think you do. What's happened is you've given up the keys. So I want everyone to know you need to take your keys back.
Yeah, and that is exactly what I refer to it as. I said, you know, the person is going to burn your house down. Why do you give them the key to the house? It makes no sense. And we take steps very timidly because we do not want to upset the people who are holding our key. And that, as you said, is we have to set boundaries. So guys, there's so many of them. You have to keep going with these people. Did you experience when your journey? I have it wrong. Personal plans that we make generally morph. Our goals and dreams and desires, they morph and they become something, and then we, the designer, becomes the follower. Did you have that ever? Because you can start over here and you end down there. What do you say?
Yes. And my business and the brand that people see today was not the plan at all.
It morphed. It demanded a new way. I know.
Yeah. This was not. I look around and think, where did this even come from? Because this was not what I wanted to. This is not what I thought. But let me tell you what's interesting, though, Tessa-Marie. And I say this, and people think I'm joking. I'm being totally serious. I'm a very simple guy. When I was growing up, I knew I had two gifts. One was drawing, and one was reading. And my mind told me I was going to be an artist. That's what my mind said. Now, my family, again, you know, my mom picked cotton before I was born. So this just shows you where my family comes from. And I would say to them, I'm going to be an artist. I'm going to be a writer. You know, that's going to be my thing. And they never, even though they had not seen that in our family, they never told me I couldn't do it. They never told me I couldn't. But they didn't know how I was going to do it. They didn't know how it was going to work out. But my mom tells me today, she said she knew if I said it, I would find a way to make it happen. And that's ironically what I've been able to do. But everything else has definitely come from that. Because when I start sharing my story, writing it, speaking it, that led to the radio show in 2003. And that led then to the TV show, which led to the magazine, which led to me writing books. And so it all still has at its core what I wanted to do. But the rest of it, definitely, if you had told me 25 years ago, you're going to be hosting a radio show and you're going to be celebrating 20 years in 2023, I would be thinking, I don't want to have a radio show. I want to write and draw.
That's right, and draw.
What I have learned is that two things can be true at one time. That I can write and draw and still host, a radio show. So yeah, that has been one of the great privileges. I will say one thing I've had to learn though, Tessa-Marie, and this is again self-evaluation for myself. I've had to learn repeatedly how to get out of my own way.
Oh.
Because God was showing up with blessings for me that I was turning down because I thought, well, I can't do that because I'm supposed to be writing and drawing. Not realizing the other thing was going to give me the platform to do what I wanted to do. And so I would say again to other people, keep your keys to yourself, but also get out of your own way.
Yes.
And because a lot of times a blessing can be trying to come through the door, Tessa-Marie, and we're standing in the doorway blocking it. from getting
Yes,
in.
yes.
You know, and so I've had to learn, even though it's uncomfortable for me, I've had to learn to step back and to let it in and to embrace it because I've worked for it.
Hmm.
You know, and I've worked for it, and I know that if it's come to me and I treat it appropriately, that it will still lead me to where I want to go.
Yes, it is. But one of the things that you said, Cyrus, when you the way you said it, you realize that new thing in front of you will still allow you to read and draw
Yeah,
because that's where you want it to be. So
right.
that's what we fail to realize. We get so upset when our goals, dreams, and desire morph into something else. And I tell that to people. I say, you have to ask it what it wants. When it's not happening, you're not paying attention. It talks to you. It tells you what to do. But sometimes we're so busy, in our own way, Cyrus. That's one of the reasons. So I'm glad you put it that way. We have to get out of our own way. You guys heard what Cyrus said. I hope you're collecting those gems. They're not coming back. You have to go next time. You'll have a different set of gems. You never know.
And
Um,
Tessa-Marie, there's a biblical example for myself that I look at that doesn't look like it fits, but it's a perfect example of what I had to learn. Joseph, as a child, was shown these visions of what God was going to use him to do. He didn't know how it was going to happen, especially after his brothers decided they wanted to kill him.
yes,
Then
yes,
they ended up
yeah,
selling him, and then he ended up being in prison for being accused of attempted rape.
yeah.
You know, and spending all of that time, and there's no record that he ever questioned God, and yet what did God allow to happen because of his faithfulness? Allowed him to not only be elevated,
Hmm.
but reunite him with his family.
Yes,
So it all came full circle. And that's what I had to learn for myself. A lot of times, the pieces don't look like they fit together. But if the pieces are there, if it's meant for you, you'll be able to see how they come together to make the complete picture.
you see, Cyrus, that is a really good example for us to get it, because sometimes we are in this situation, and because we're so close to the forest, we cannot see the trees.
Yeah.
So when Cyrus puts it like that for us, we are able to see it even better. And it's true. That's why I tell people, we do not have to go so far to get lessons. They're in so many books. And that is why I always say, read, because everywhere the author has gone, you're going, and there you will learn more. You cannot have enough inside of you. You need more. So when your goal starts talking to you, you have to pay attention. Or when it's just not bending to you, you have to talk to it. You created it. At a certain time, it's alive.
Yeah.
And it's going to talk back and say, no, I don't think that's where we should go. And instead of being the designer, you're no longer your designer, you're the follower. You have to follow the plan. Where the plan takes you, that's where you go. Yeah. So I'm really glad you brought that up. How do you tell us about your experiences with inspirations, when you take them or when you then don't take them? Tell us about you and inspirations, because I think everybody gets them.
Yeah. For myself, one thing I've learned, Tessa-Marie, is that there is no little thing. And so for me, and this is going to sound really crazy, but I think people will get this. I'm not known for being an outdoors person, Tessa-Marie, but I love raking leaves, and I'll tell you why. I had an experience that I felt like God was speaking to me. I was going through something in my life, trying to figure something out, and it's like I heard a voice say, "Go rake some leaves." Now, a lot of times, if I do something that's out of character for myself, that's an opportunity for me to separate myself from my work and just kind of really be with Cyrus, So I'll go out there and chop some wood, or I'll go out there and rake some leaves. So I was going out there to rake some leaves, and as I saw the leaves, they were all spread out, but because they had been falling for a while and they had been raking them, they had started to pile up, which makes it very, very difficult. And so I started raking the leaves, and the pile was getting bigger, and the wind was blowing. And I would be raking the leaves, and the wind would blow some leaves back. I'm getting to something here, y'all. Stay with me.
No, that's okay. Just hang on, guys. It's
And
good.
so I'm raking the leaves, the wind is blowing, and I said, you know what? I have two choices. Either I'm going to bag the leaves up, or I can burn them, because here where I live, we can burn our leaves. I decided to burn them. And as I was making the fire, the biggest lesson came to me, Tessa-Marie, and that is this. So many times we allow our lives to be cluttered with stuff. And we try to see our way through it, but instead of seeing our way through it, all we're doing is moving it around. I was raking the leaves, but the wind was blowing them right back. I had to eliminate the leaves to be able to get to the clean grass that was underneath. And that's when I started looking for lessons in the simple things, because that was a big lesson to me. If I had just raked the leaves up and went back in the house, the wind was going to keep blowing them right back. So I'm wasting my time. But when we realize the importance of not only identifying an area we need to clean up in our lives, but then take the action to actually get it out of the way so it can't come back, that's how we can actually be able to enjoy what's left behind. So for me, inspiration is in the little things. When I see something in the house, sometimes I'll notice something, and it's like, because I think so many times we're looking for this big thing to happen. And for myself, what I've learned is that inspiration can come in something someone says, so the way that someone puts something. It's like, oh wow, that's interesting, and and that is what keeps me excited about life. Is I don't have to have a big thing, you know. It's not about I don't have to have Oprah walk through my door. Now, Oprah, if you're watching and you want to come over and visit, I'm not saying I don't want you to. I'm just saying that I don't have to have Oprah. I can have Tessa-Marie, you know, in her morning messages, sharing something, and it makes me say, oh, wow, I never thought about things that way. So that's what I would say about inspiration, is that I think we have to stop looking for the big thing and just be open to everything. Because life every day is trying to teach us something, but it's up to us to be able to take the lesson. For me, it began with leaves. That became the thing for me. So now I get excited about raking leaves because I think about that. I'm clearing the way, you know, for what I really want, which is my nice grass.
That is, we talk a lot about inspirations, and today's morning blessing was about, I asked them that in that inspiration you had this morning, or you had 10 minutes ago, can you recall it? Because sometimes if we do not write it down, we can't recall it. If we don't stop and acknowledge it and do something about it right away, like you said, you went out to do the leaves, Cyrus went out to do the leaves. And it's doing the leaves, you got such a valuable lesson, because you realize, I leave that mess out there, it's going to be a mess again tomorrow because of the wind. So these are the type of lessons we learn, and then we can share. But have you ever experienced ignoring an inspiration?
Yes, and it did not go well. So I'm a very transparent person, Tessa-Marie, and for myself, I think a lot of times I've gotten better as I've gotten older, and I'm not trying to put it on being immature, because young people can be just as attuned as some adults can be. But what I have learned is that sometimes when I do ignore something that I know can be beneficial or can be a lesson taught, that it then affects not just me, but affects the whole flow of the world around me. And that again goes to the point that I was making earlier, and that is, it's so much bigger than us. And I think, again, we have to, even though it's hard sometimes because we all are going through something, but for me, I've had to learn, you know what, these things, just like I gave the account about Joseph, it was bigger than Joseph. The things that come to me are bigger than me. Maybe this isn't even for me. Maybe it's for someone that I'm going to meet today and share with somebody. So I have to stop dismissing it, thinking, oh, no, that's not for me. Well, maybe it is for me to share. And I think a lot of times that's where I've gotten in trouble, is that I did not realize that it was bigger than me, and to take that in and then be able to share it.
That's true. Kimberly said right. So, Cyrus, how do you deal with fear and doubt?
It's a daily process.
It is, isn't it?
It is a daily, and for me, it has become more difficult over the past year. And again, being very transparent, I entered into a whole another world of my professional life last year in my relationship as a content creator, working with Amazon. And things were happening so fast. I literally started self-sabotaging. I can admit this now. I started self-sabotaging to slow it down. 'Cause I was like, you know what? And I'm laughing about it now, but it's nothing to laugh about because a lot of people are doing it. A lot of people do it. I'm just letting you guys know this. I self-sabotage. Things were going well for me, so I started dragging my feet and like, okay, yeah, this is happening. Because what had happened, Tessa-Marie, is that I was trying to do it here. I was trying to do it up here, and this always gets us in trouble.
Yes, it does. It's too small an area.
Yeah, and so I was trying to say, there's no way I can do this. There's no way I can handle this. And because I was trapped up here, it wasn't just impacting me, going to what I was saying earlier, it was impacting the world I was creating around me too. So what I've had to learn was to recognize it. And again, it's daily. It happened to me this morning. Something happened this morning. I had to recognize it, but then embrace it. Because I have never had an experience, Tessa-Marie, and I can say this honestly, I've never had an experience that scared me that was as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
And I think for other people, we make it so much bigger than it is. And again, because we're up here. That's what, like me, I was last year. And so we create this narrative, right? Of this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and this is going to, all of this stuff's going to start. And then when we go through it, it's like, wait a minute, that wasn't what I thought was going to happen, And then we start thinking, why didn't I do it before? So for me, that's kind of my thing. Every day I say, you know what? I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I'm going to find peace with whatever it is.
That is amazing. That is a valuable lesson for us all to learn. Because before we attempt something, fear comes in and gives us a lot of things. And doubt is something that is set in our mind very early as we're growing by sometimes parents and that environment. And when we go to school, we're told how we are going to be for the rest of our life. We're going to be successful or not based on the teacher's view of us at the moment. Share what you do when you face a challenge or a detour in something you plan to do.
So the first thing I do, and I equate everything to a lesson, is to think, okay, if I have come to a challenge or an obstacle, one, is it my fault? Did I get off course? Because a lot of times what will happen is we'll think we're going straight, but then we'll start, we'll take a left turn that we weren't supposed to take on, and then we end up facing something. They were like, okay, how did this get here? I first look at that. Okay, what's my role in this? And then after that, I think, okay, is this challenge or obstacle, is this a not now, a not yet, or it's going to be a little while? Because what I've learned is I've stopped looking at challenges and obstacles as a no. I think that's another mistake people have made in their life. I've made it too. We think because we hit a detour, we did something wrong, and that means it's not for us. When a lot of times, it's giving us time to prepare, giving us time to fortify ourselves, and even to realize, you know what? I may need to bring somebody else along this journey with me, And when we think of it that way, instead of thinking of it as a no, I look at it as a pause. So even when I hit an obstacle, which happens, if I hit a challenge, I don't think, oh no, I did something wrong. And that is our default, I think. I think, oh, well, maybe this is going to take a little bit longer, because a detour is still getting us moving. We're not stopping.
No, you're not
and
stopping.
And see, that's where I think we mess up, Tessa-Marie. We look at a challenge as a stop sign instead of as a yield or a detour sign.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tell people to change the sign. Don't think of a challenge as a no, as a stop. Look at it as a detour. Look at it as a time to yield. And then if you look at it that way, you stay moving. When you look at it as a no, you're not going to try to go any further.
No, you stay blocked. So,
Yeah.
So Cyrus, one of the things I notice about you is that you do not hesitate to help others. I follow you. I've been following you since I came across you. How I have no idea. And I've just felt as if we have been the best of friends, and I can trust you, and you, I know you we talk separately from this. What I would like to know from you, what it is that makes some people afraid to help others succeed. I do not believe in that. I would push the way for somebody else. I know you do that. Do you understand the person who does not give an opportunity because of fear of taking from what they have, the little bit of knowledge they have, or the little bit of weight, something, the exposure? How? Talk about that.
This is a good one, and I think and all your questions have been amazing, Tessa-Marie. I always enjoy our time, even like you said, off of here. I mean, but I think here's the thing. I think it's two things being true at one time. I don't think, and I've had to learn this. Let me just say this. Some people may not agree, but this is what I've learned. I don't think it's that people don't want to see others succeed. What I have learned, Tessa-Marie, I believe it is that they've been told there can be only one. And so a lot of this is the way they've been trained is to thinking that, well, if this person makes it, then that means I can't be the person. Instead of realizing we can all be the people. So it's become, even though we may not intend for it to be selfish, it's become selfish because we don't see, because we're up here. We don't see that, wait a minute, there can be more than one. And a lot of this is societal, right? There is the best this and the best this. And no one really pays attention to the runner-ups. So society has told us if you're not number one, you're nothing. What I've had to learn is that you can't let the way other people see success, you can't let the way other people see winning affect the way that you realize. Because even if you don't cross the finish line, quote unquote, first, as long as you finish your race, you're a winner.
Yes.
And I think that is where people have gotten it mixed up. They think that if I help someone else, well, that's going to leave less for me.
Yeah.
Instead of realizing if I help someone else, they may help open the door wider so I can do the thing that I need to be able to do, like Joseph did.
Yes.
And so I think for myself, that's what I've tried to share with people through the way I live, Tessa-Marie, and I appreciate you saying that about me. That's what my grandmother taught me. My grandmother taught me that, she would say things to me a lot of times I didn't understand, I didn't believe, quite honestly. She would say, you're going to be great, but don't get the big head. You're going to do well, but don't forget about other people. And in my mind, I would think, well, why would I forget about other people? But not realizing that that's the way the world thinks. The world thinks, yes. I have to be here. We can't be here together.
No.
Someone has to be here.
Yeah.
And what I have learned is that we can be. In fact, we're stronger if we're here. Because then we're carrying the weight equally.
Yes.
And so to me, it's all about a mindset thing. And that's what I try to share with people. I don't try to beat it over their heads, but I do try to show by my example that, look, I tell my friends all the time, I want you to win. But I also tell them this, Tessa-Marie, but whether you do or not, I'm going to win.
Yes.
I want you to win.
I want you to win.
But I'm not going to stay back here with you.
No.
Because you decided not to.
Yes.
If you want to go, I want you to go and I will help you go. But I'm not going to stay back here because you've made the decision not to be your own form of greatness.
You choose to stay back. So Cyrus, What is the? We're finishing. I know you have to be in bed in 5 minutes. What is the advice you can share with us that will propel someone who is wavering about making a decision that can change their life? For example, they might listen to this on YouTube. Yuko told me to put it on YouTube, so I guess it's going to go there too somehow, somewhere. We'll figure it out. So to propel them, they're sitting on the fence, like your friend that you left in the back and said, you can stay there, but I'm going ahead.
Right.
So what do you say to that person that is wavering? They're afraid. They have all sorts of things from the past. Family tell them, you're not good enough. We never succeed. Nobody did this in our family. And they need that. They know the burning desires. What advice can you give them or share with us tonight?
I'm going to quote Black Panther.
Oh.
Wakanda forever. 5 words that to me are so powerful, and everybody should wake up in the morning, look at themselves in the mirror and say, show them who you are. Because you have everything that you need to be your form of greatness. But it's up to you to show them who you are, because how else are we going to know it? So I would say to anybody who's wavering, first of all, know that if it's been given to you, the path will be made for you to pursue it. But you have to be willing to do your part in it. So show them who you are. You know, just like we going full circle here, you mentioned in my name, you know, if I had been this lousy bum on the street, being named Cyrus, you know what I'm saying? People would not think that I'm Cyrus the Great, you know, but I am showing them my own form of greatness by being who I am. And that's what I would say to everyone else. Don't let your doubts, don't let your fears, don't let what people have told you, don't let what you've told yourself.
Yeah.
Don't let that stop you from exhibiting the greatness that is already there. Because here's the thing, Tessa-Marie, and I think you would agree with me on this. The greatness is there whether we use it or not.
Yeah.
You will either live with it or you'll die with it.
Me too.
I made the decision to live with it. And so I would say to other people, show them who you are. Show them the greatness that only you can give us, because we need it.
Do you have any tips on the power of consistency?
Now, I do well with it. I'll give myself credit for this.
Me too. Me too.
My friends will tell you, I've been reading from my books, honestly, for 4 years.
Yeah.
7 days a week.
So that's okay.
Yeah, for 4 years. Consistency is something I've always done in my life, so that I will give myself. That's probably the one thing, Tessa-Marie, I'll give myself credit for. I am definitely consistent. But what I would say though is to start with something small, because I think part of it is we overwhelm ourselves and thinking I have to do everything every day. Have to post on this platform 5 days a week. Have to post on this one 5 days a week. Have to write this 5 days a week. The thing is, I tell my students, those that I work with, start with once a week. Make yourself a promise that once a week I'm going to do this, and get consistent in that, and then say can I do twice a week? And I think that way, again, like you mentioned earlier, Tessa-Marie, I love the analogy. You don't have to eat it all at one time.
Oh.
But I think we overwhelm ourselves and think we have to do it all, and we have to do it today. And that's why New Year's resolutions don't normally work for people, because they think, I'm just going to go January 1st, I'm just going to do this, without really saying, you know what, is this even feasible? That I can even do this? Whatever that thing is, right? So I would say start small. But here's something that you talk about a lot that I love. Stop breaking promises to yourself.
Yes, that one hurts me.
Stop breaking promises to you.
Yeah.
Because again, it is your house.
Yeah.
So you have to realize that I owe it to myself to give myself this gift of consistency. Whether it is once a week, once it is twice, whatever that might look like, I owe this to me. It's not about anybody else. Because other people will benefit from it, but it all begins with you.
With you, because that's why I always say, do not honor the promises you make to yourself. And then furthermore, I said, remember, you do this not because of people out there. You're doing it because you want to do it. You're doing it for you.
Yeah.
That's why we stand there and do it. We're doing it for us. And it's not selfish either. Like when you said a while ago, we should blow up ourselves up because nobody is, we have to tell them, talk about it. And that is something that's very important for us to do. I have one thing I have to ask. I always have one more.
Yeah, sure.
So that one more, Cyrus, is this. I think there is a common thing between success and failure. And I believe the same thing that makes you successful also causes you to fail. How do you feel about that? I should explain it a bit more, but I'm sure you got it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. But I would take it a step further. And this is something I've learned probably over the past, for myself, again, speaking for me, the past 13 years. I have changed my view of what success is as well as failure. And what I mean by that is this. It goes back to what we were saying about the name and everything. I can only be who I am. I don't have any servants. I don't have any kingdom I can rule over. So Cyrus the Great, he did that. He was successful in that. But what I have learned is that success looks differently for me. Me and my good friend Earl Hall, we have a saying that we say to each other all the time. Success is personal.
It is personal.
But here's the other side of that, Tessa-Marie. So is failure. Failure is personal too. Because again, it goes to what's up here. Because you did not make a 100 and you made a 90, that is not a failure. It may not have been what you wanted, but you still were a success. You need to honor that for yourself. I think what's happened is that, again, kind of going to the whole idea of there has to be a number one and everyone else. I think we have to start reshaping the way we look at as failure. Even Joseph said, what you meant for evil, God meant for good.
Yes.
So the same can be true at the same time. And I think from people, the way I feel about it is exactly like what you said. Success and failure are on the same plane because it really is up to what we decide it to be.
Because I found out that the same tools that you use to be successful, when you stop using those tools, that's when you fail. And, and if you have a tool that you use all the time and you have been failing with that tool and you keep using that tool forever, you will still fail. Whereas if the successful tool, you keep it and you're using it, you will stay successful. And people, so it's the same thing. That's why Rudyard Kipling calls success and failure. He calls them both imposters. Because to get either of them, you have to keep doing the same thing all the time. So to be successful, you have to do something all the time. To be a failure, you have to do the same thing over and over again. So it's the same thing. But Cyrus, my goodness, Cyrus, this was an amazing, almost an hour. I promise. Yeah, it's 7 minutes to the hour.
Okay. It honestly, I have to say, I didn't look at my watch not one time because I trust you, I respect you, and I can't leave without saying this, Tessa-Marie. The love and respect I have for you is what I know everyone else that follows you have. You show up authentically, consistently, each and every day. You're pouring into other people every time that I see you. And I'm so appreciative to you for your realizing the greatness that you are, walking in that greatness and sharing that greatness with other people. Because one thing I know, anyone who follows you knows this. Tessa-Marie is not about Tessa-Marie. You know, when I see you post talking about finances, talking about healing, you're trying to help somebody else. And so you, again, are showing by example what all of us can do. And I just wanted to make sure that I said that.
Well, you said so much, my head got this big. But you know, I'm like you. I had these religious people in my life. My mother, we joked to my mom and dad And we said, my mother who held on to the two front pillars of the church, and my dad was holding on to the back pillars of the church. So we were brought up to share, to give, to stimulate, to educate others.
Yeah.
All the time. My dad's mantra to us was that knowledge is not yours to keep. What you know, you must teach. So we had to always share with somebody else. And it comes very easy. And I love doing it, because when I look, especially in the culture that we come from, when I look with our what you call it, our relationship with money, it's like a dangerous divorce that took place years ago, and nobody has healed from it. We're still fighting with attracting it, understanding to use it, or thinking it's all bad. So we're torn with so many things in our culture. So when I set out to hold somebody's hand from our culture, I literally want at the end of this that you are successful. But I emulate you by seeing how generous you help others. And I know you maybe suffer with that. And I suffer with it in a way, but I've learned over the years to accept it for what it is. That it's not everybody that understands the gift of giving, of the breath, even to share a breath, because you will spread and help. And when you ask and say, you should do the same, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to keep it all for me. And it's sad, because I sit there and I'm going, no. If only you know what just those words have done for your future. But that same person comes back and said, no matter what I do, I cannot make ends meet. And I'm going, that's because you're not opening your hands to give, just pour it into somebody else's.
Yeah.
But they believe they only have a pint and they cannot give from the pint. So thank you. But you share, you teach, you help, you encourage, you bring people up, and you make them feel so much better. And you never say no.
Well, here's the thing, what I've learned, and I want to say to everybody, thank you all so much for watching. Stacy, I saw your comment. I appreciate you. Butterfly Thoughts, thank you so much as well. Yuko, thanks you so much for watching as well. I want to say thanks to all of you for watching and for supporting this. And Tessa-Marie, let me say this too before we do wrap up. Make sure you invite me as a collaborator on this so I can share it on my page. Yeah. On my page too. I just, my whole hope is this, that again, when I go to bed tonight, I'm already feeling good.
Yes.
So if this is my last day, again, going back to my routine, because yes, I'll be going to bed in about an hour and a half. So
I'm going to be ready in about that time in an hour.
But I can go to bed feeling that yes, I have given, and that's the thing. That is the gift of life. That is the gift of life.
It is to give so generously, not expecting anything in return. And that is such a nice feeling. So I'm going to go to bed at 9. So that's going to be, target practice to get to sleep at 9. And when I get there, when I go down for my download tonight, I can say, you know what? I collaborated with Cyrus, and I plastered that post all over. I think the people were getting mad at me for sharing it all day long because I knew there were gems and diamonds and pearls and nuggets that you were dropping tonight. And you who haven't seen it, or you should watch it again and take notes, please. I'm going to post it everywhere I can. So thank you so much for coming.
It is my pleasure. And look, I will continue to say yes every time that you invite me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your presence here tonight. I am so happy and grateful. I had the honor and the privilege to bring Cyrus to you tonight on the Tessa-Marie Show. And I'm just hoping that we grow and influence more people to realize life is just about showing up every day and doing your best, not the best according to the world. Thank you, Cyrus. Good night. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.